My name's Emily, and I'm 28. I always thought my sister Hannah's wedding would be a day of joy, a chance to mend old wounds. I spent weeks picking out a navy dress, writing a toast, even crafting a locket with our childhood photo as her gift. But when I got to the venue, they pointed me to a folding chair in the hallway right by the coat racks. Hannah smirked and said, "Guess you don't count." My heart sank. Have you ever felt invisible at a family event? Share where you're watching from, and please like and subscribe to hear what happened next. I stood in the gravel lot outside the barn, my heels sinking slightly as I clutched my purse. The air smelled of wildflowers and barbecue, and the hum of music spilled from the open doors. I'd driven 3 hours to upstate New York for Hannah's wedding, my heart full of hope, despite the years of distance between us. My navy dress, the one I'd saved up for months to buy, felt too tight now, like it was squeezing my breath. I smoothed it down, forcing a smile, and walked toward the entrance. Inside, the venue was a dream. Twinkling lights hung from the rafters, and tables were draped in white linen, each centerpiece bursting with roses. Guests milled about, their laughter bright, their champagne glasses clinking. I scanned the crowd for familiar faces, spotting a few cousins and old neighbors, but no one met my eyes. I told myself it was just the chaos of the day. Weddings are hectic, right? I'd find my place soon. I made my way to the seating chart, a chalkboard propped up near the bar. My name had to be there, maybe with the family table, or at least somewhere close. I ran my finger down the list, my pulse quickening as I searched. Nothing. No Emily. I checked again, slower this time, my stomach twisting. A cousin Brian appeared at my side, his tie loose and a beer in hand. He was one of Hannah's ushers, and I'd always liked his easy grin. "Hey, Brian," I said, keeping my voice light. "I can't find my seat. Can you check?" He glanced at the board, then at me, his smile fading. "Oh, yeah, let me see." He fumbled with a clipboard, his eyes darting away. "Here it is. Follow me." I trailed him through the crowd, weaving past guests who barely noticed me. We passed the main hall, where tables were packed with people chatting, and headed toward a narrow hallway off the side. My steps slowed as I saw it, a single folding chair tucked between a coat rack and a stack of extra napkins. The chair wobbled on the uneven floor, and a paper sign taped to it read, "Guest." Not even my name. I laughed, a sharp, nervous sound. "This has to be a mistake, right? I'm Hannah's sister." Brian rubbed the back of his neck, his face red. "No mistake. This is what she told me." "Sorry, Emily." He shuffled off before I could say more, leaving me staring at the chair. My chest tightened. I set my purse on the chair, trying to make sense of it. Was this some kind of prank? Hannah and I hadn't been close in years, not since we were kids, but I'd thought today could be different. I'd spent weeks crafting that locket, pouring my heart into it, hoping it would remind her of the sisters we used to be. But this felt like a slap. I spotted Hannah across the room, radiant in her white gown, her laughter carrying over the music. She was surrounded by her bridesmaids, including Clara, who'd been my friend too back in high school. I caught Clara's eye, but she looked away, whispering something to another bridesmaid. My throat burned. I wanted to march over, demand answers, but my feet stayed rooted. Instead, I took a deep breath and walked toward Hannah, weaving through the crowd. She was adjusting her veil when I reached her, and for a moment, I saw the girl who used to braid my hair at night. "Hannah," I said softly, "can we talk? There's something wrong with my seat." She turned her smile tight. "Emily, it's my day." "Don't start drama." Her voice was sharp, like she'd been waiting for me to ruin something. "I'm not," I said, my hands trembling. I'm in the hallway. By the coats. Is that right? She sighed, rolling her eyes. It's a big wedding. We had to make cuts. Don't make a scene, okay? She turned back to her bridesmaids, dismissing me without another word. I stood there frozen as her words sank in. Cuts. I was her sister. I felt the room tilt, the laughter and music blurring into a dull roar. As I turned to walk away, I heard a voice behind me, low and sharp. It was our Aunt Margaret talking to a cousin. Why is she even here? Always causing trouble. My face flushed, and I hurried back to the hallway, my heels clicking on the wood floor. The chair was still there, mocking me. I sank into it, my hands gripping the locket in my purse. I'd come here to celebrate, to rebuild, but now I felt like I was crashing a party I was never invited to. The worst part, I didn't know why Hannah hated me so much, or if I'd done something to deserve this. I sat in that wobbly chair, the hallway dim and smelling faintly of mildew from the stacked linens. The music from the main hall pulsed through the walls, a cheerful contrast to the knot in my chest. I kept my eyes on the floor, tracing the scuffs on the wood, trying to hold it together. Every laugh from the guests felt like a jab, like they all knew I didn't belong. I wanted to disappear, but I couldn't shake the hope that maybe, just maybe, Hannah would change her mind. I glanced through the half-open door to the ceremony space. The officiant was speaking, his voice warm as he talked about love and family. I could see Hannah at the altar, her veil catching the light, Ethan standing beside her with a proud smile. My sister looked perfect, like she'd stepped out of a magazine. But I wasn't part of that picture. I was out here an afterthought, my dress creasing against the metal chair. A memory flashed when we were kids. Hannah used to sneak into my bed during thunderstorms, her small hand gripping mine. She'd whisper that I made her feel safe. But by high school, she'd changed, always one-upping me, stealing the spotlight. Our parents fed into it. Mom would beam when Hannah won debate trophies while my art projects barely got a glance. Dad, before he passed, was the only one who saw me, who'd hang my sketches on his office wall. I reached into my purse, my fingers brushing the crumpled note I'd found that morning, one he'd written years ago. Emily, your heart is your strength, it said. I held it tight, like it could anchor me. A young waiter approached, his name tag reading Lucas. He had kind eyes and a tray balanced on one hand. You okay out here? He asked, offering a glass of water. His voice was soft, not pitying, just genuine. I took the glass, my hands unsteady. Thanks. Just not where I thought I'd be today. He nodded like he understood more than he let on. Weddings can be rough. Hang in there. He lingered a moment before heading back to the kitchen, and his small kindness made my throat ache. It was the first time all day someone had really seen me. I sipped the water, trying to steady my breathing, when Clara strutted past her bridesmaid dress, swishing. She stopped, her lips curling into a smirk. Nice spot, Emily. Did you even RSVP, or did you just show up? Her words were sharp, meant to cut. I froze, my face burning. Clara and I had been close, once sharing secrets at sleepovers, but she'd drifted to Hannah's side in college. I'd heard she was mad about some high school talent show where I'd accidentally upstaged her dance routine with my painting. I hadn't meant to, but she'd never let it go. I was invited, Clara, I said, my voice low. You know that. She shrugged, tossing her hair. Whatever. Just don't mess up Hannah's day. She sauntered off, leaving me reeling. I set the glass down, my hands shaking. I wanted to scream, to storm into the ceremony and demand to know why I was being treated like this. But I stayed put, my hope clinging to the idea that the reception might be different. Maybe Hannah would call me over, laugh it off, say it was all a mix-up. I pulled out the locket again, running my thumb over the tiny photo inside our gap-toothed smiles from a summer at the lake. I'd give it to her later, I decided. It might soften her, remind her we were family. The ceremony ended, and guests spilled into the hallway, heading for the reception. I stood smoothing my dress, ready to join them. But as I stepped forward, I caught my mother's eye. She was adjusting her shawl, her face tight with disapproval. "Emily, don't make a fuss," she said, her voice clipped. "This is Hannah's moment." Her words hit like a slap. I opened my mouth to argue, but she was already gone, swept into the crowd. I stood there, the locket heavy in my hand, my hope crumbling. If even Mom thought I was the problem, what was I fighting for? The hallway felt smaller, the walls closing in, and I realized this wasn't just a seating mistake. It was a message, and it was breaking my heart. The reception was in full swing now, the barn alive with chatter and the clink of silverware. I stood in the hallway, my legs shaky, my mother's words echoing in my head. "Don't make a fuss." I wanted to scream that I wasn't the one making anything, that I was just trying to exist here. But I swallowed it down, my fingers tightening around the locket in my purse. I told myself I'd try one more time to be part of this, to find a way in. I stepped toward the main hall, the music louder now, a pop song Hannah loved. The tables were packed guests, leaning into each other, their faces flushed with wine and laughter. I scanned for an empty seat, hoping maybe someone would wave me over. But the few eyes that met mine darted away like I was a stranger who'd wandered in off the street. My chest burned. I recognized an old neighbor, Ruth, but when I smiled, she turned to her husband, pretending she hadn't seen me. I made my way to the gift table, figuring I'd at least leave the locket there. It was a small wooden table near the dance floor, piled with wrapped boxes and cards. I set the locket down carefully, its silver chain glinting under the lights. I imagined Hannah opening it later, seeing our childhood photo, maybe feeling a pang of guilt. But as I stepped back, I caught Ethan, Hannah's new husband, whispering something to her. They both glanced at me, and Hannah's lips twitched like she was holding back a laugh. My stomach twisted. Ethan had always seemed kind, the type to ask about my job or make small talk at family dinners. Had he been in on this too? I turned away, my face hot, and nearly bumped into my mother. She was holding a flute of champagne, her pearl earrings catching the light. "Emily, I told you to stop sulking," she said, her voice low but sharp. "Be happy for your sister. This isn't about you." "Not about me," I said, my voice louder than I meant. "Mom, I'm sitting by the coats. How is that okay?" She sighed like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "You're being dramatic. Hannah worked hard for this day. Don't ruin it." She walked off, joining a group of aunts, leaving me standing there, my hands trembling. I retreated to the hallway, my heart pounding. Her words cut deeper than Hannah's, because Mom was supposed to see us both, to love us equally. But she never had. I remembered Hannah's 16th birthday, how Mom had thrown her a huge party, while mine was always a cake and a card, if that. Hannah got the bigger room, the better clothes, the louder praise. And I'd eaten it up, thinking if I was good enough, quiet enough, I'd earn my place. But I never did. A small voice broke through my thoughts. "Aunt Emily." It was Sophie, my 10-year-old cousin, her dress a puff of tulle. She slipped out of the hall, her eyes wide with worry. "Why are you out here? It's boring." I forced a smile, crouching to her level. "Just taking a break, kiddo. Go have fun." She frowned, crossing her arms. "I don't like how they treat you. Hannah's mean." Her bluntness hit me hard, a mix of comfort and pain. A kid could see it, but my own mother couldn't. "Sophie." "It's okay," I said, my voice catching. "Go dance. I'll be fine." She hesitated, then hugged me quick before running back inside. I stood, my eyes stinging, and leaned against the wall. The truth was sinking in. This wasn't just a bad day. It was years of being pushed aside, and I'd let it happen, hoping love would fix it. But as I heard Hannah's voice over the mic starting her first toast, I felt something shift. She was thanking everyone, her friends, her in-laws, even the caterers. My name wasn't mentioned not once, and I realized she wasn't going to stop until I was erased completely. Hannah's toast echoed through the barn, her voice bright and practiced thanking everyone for making her day perfect. I stood frozen in the hallway, my back against the wall, Sophie's words still ringing in my ears. A kid saw the truth, but the rest of them, they clapped and cheered, caught up in Hannah's glow. I felt like a ghost watching a life I wasn't part of. My hands shook as I shoved the locket deeper into my purse, its weight now a reminder of my stupidity for hoping. I forced myself to move, inching closer to the doorway to see the reception. The dance floor was starting to fill, couples swaying under the string lights. I spotted my mother at a table near the front laughing with Hannah's in-laws, her face softer than I'd ever seen it. She'd always been harder on me, quick to criticize my choices, my job, even my hair. But with Hannah, she melted like my sister could do no wrong. I wondered if she even noticed I was out here, or if she preferred it that way. I tried to catch someone's eye, anyone to feel less alone. My cousin Brian was at the bar joking with the bartender, but when he saw me, he turned away, his shoulders stiff. Even he was in on it, or at least too spineless to care. I scanned the room for Clara, wondering if I could talk to her, maybe clear the air about whatever grudge she held. But she was on the dance floor, twirling with another bridesmaid, her laughter sharp and careless. I felt a pang remembering late-night talks we'd had as teens, how she'd promised we'd always be close. That was gone now, buried under Hannah's influence. A new pain hit when I saw the gift table again. The locket was still there, untouched, but next to it was something that stopped me cold, my mother's heirloom necklace, the one she'd worn at her own wedding. She'd promised it to me when I was 12, saying it was for the daughter who'd carry on her strength. I'd believed her treasured the idea of it, but there it was, draped over a card with Hannah's name. My breath caught a sharp ache spreading through my chest. She'd given it to Hannah without a word to me, like I'd never mattered. I turned away, my vision blurring, and nearly ran into Ethan. He was adjusting his tie, his face polite but distant. "Emily, you okay?" he asked, but his tone was careful, like he was handling something fragile that might explode. "No, I'm not," I said, my voice low, trembling. "Why am I out here, Ethan? Why did Hannah do this?" He shifted, glancing toward the dance floor, where Hannah was posing for photos. "Look, it's her day. She's stressed. Maybe just let it go for now." His words were soft, but they landed like a betrayal. I'd thought he was different, someone who'd see through Hannah's games, but he was protecting her, choosing her side. I stepped back, my throat tight. "Let it go." She put me in the hallway. "You think that's normal?" He sighed, his eyes flicking away. "I don't want trouble, Emily. Just try to enjoy the night." He walked off, joining Hannah, leaving me alone again. I stumbled back to my chair, my legs weak. The hallway was quieter now, the party's noise a dull roar. I sank down, my hands covering my face, trying to hold back the sob building in my chest. Lucas, the waiter, passed by with a tray of empty glasses. He paused, his brow furrowing. "You don't deserve this," he said quietly, his voice steady. "I've seen families like this. It's not you." I looked up, my eyes wet. Then why does it feel like it is? I whispered. He didn't have an answer, just a sad smile before he moved on. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling, the twinkling lights from the hall, casting faint shadows. Hannah's voice came over the mic again, announcing the cake cutting. Everyone cheered, but I felt like I was drowning. My sister wasn't just ignoring me. She was rewriting our family, erasing me from it. And the worst part was no one seemed to care. Not Mom, not Ethan, not even the people I'd grown up with. I gripped my purse, my nails digging into my palms, and felt something snap inside. I couldn't stay here. Not like this. Not anymore. The music shifted to a slow ballad, and I heard the DJ announce the father-daughter dance. My stomach twisted as I leaned against the hallway wall, the cold wood pressing into my back. Dad wasn't here to dance with Hannah. He'd been gone 6 years, his absence, a quiet ache we never talked about. Instead, Greg, a family friend who'd known us since we were kids, was stepping in. I could see him through the doorway, his suit crisp, leading Hannah onto the dance floor. The crowd sighed, charmed, but I felt like I was choking. I edged closer, staying out of sight, my hands sweaty around my purse. The lights dimmed, casting a soft glow over Hannah and Greg as they swayed. She was smiling, her head on his shoulder, and for a moment, I saw the little girl who'd clung to Dad during his hospital stays. But then she stepped to the mic, her voice clear and warm, cutting through the room. I want to thank everyone who made this day so special, she said. My mom for her endless love, Ethan for being my rock, my bridesmaids for keeping me sane, and Greg for filling a space no one else could. The applause was deafening, but I stood frozen waiting. She named cousins, aunts, even the florist, her words polished like a speech she'd rehearsed. My name never came. Not a mention, not a nod. It was like I didn't exist, like I'd never been her sister. My chest burned a raw, tearing pain. I'd been holding out for something, anything, to prove this wasn't what it seemed. But Hannah had just erased me in front of everyone, and no one blinked. I stumbled back to the gift table, my legs unsteady, needing to do something, anything, to anchor myself. The locket was still there, its silver chain coiled like a snake. I reached for it, my fingers trembling, wanting to take it back to reclaim the piece of me I'd poured into it. But before I could, Hannah appeared at the table, a glass of wine in her hand, her smile wide as she chatted with a guest. She noticed me and paused, her eyes flicking to the locket. She picked it up, flipping it open to reveal the photo of us as kids, our sunburned faces grinning at the lake. "Oh, this is cute," she said, her voice loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "Did you make this, Emily, sweet?" Then she laughed, a sharp, dismissive sound, and tossed it back onto the table, the locket clattering against a stack of cards. The guests chuckled, and others glanced over their eyes, curious, but cold. My face burned, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. That locket wasn't just a gift. It was my last hope, a piece of our past I thought might reach her. And she'd thrown it away like it was nothing. I grabbed the locket, clutching it so tightly the edges bit into my palm. My vision blurred with tears, but I couldn't cry, not here, not with everyone watching. I turned, my heels clicking on the floor, and started toward the exit. The hallway stretched out, the coat racks looming like silent witnesses. I passed Ruth, our old neighbor, who was adjusting her scarf near the door. She caught my arm, her grip firm but kind. "Emily," she said, her voice low, "your father would be ashamed of how she's treating you. You don't deserve this." Her words hit like a wave, breaking something inside me. Dad had always been my safe place, the one who'd lift me up when Hannah or Mom tore me down. Ruth's mention of him made the pain sharper, clearer. This wasn't just about a seat or a locket. Hannah wasn't distracted or stressed. She wanted me gone, humiliated, erased, and she was succeeding. I pulled away from Ruth, my breath hitching, and pushed through the door into the cool night air. The gravel crunched under my feet, each step heavier as the truth sank in. My sister didn't just overlook me. She hated me, and I didn't know how to keep standing under that weight. The night air hit my face sharp and cold as I stood outside the barn, the locket still cutting into my palm. The music from the reception pulsed faintly, a cruel reminder of the celebration I wasn't part of. I took a shaky step toward my car, the gravel shifting under my heels, but something stopped me. I couldn't just leave, not yet, not without knowing why Hannah had done this. My chest was a tangle of rage and grief, and I needed answers even if they broke me further. I turned back, the barn's warm light spilling onto the path. Through the open door, I saw the dance floor packed, guests twirling under the chandeliers. Hannah was in the center, laughing with Ethan, her gown catching every eye. I slipped back into the hallway, my heart hammering, and hovered near the entrance, hidden by a curtain. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I couldn't walk away without something, anything, to make sense of this. Then I heard my name sharp and mocking over the microphone. Hannah's voice cut through the noise, and the crowd quieted. "Oh, and let's not forget Emily," she said, her tone dripping with fake sweetness. "My sister always so dramatic. Bet she's sulking somewhere, right?" A ripple of laughter spread through the room, and my blood ran cold. I peeked out, my hands trembling, and saw her holding a glass of champagne, her eyes scanning the crowd like she was putting on a show. Ethan stood beside her, his jaw tight, but he didn't stop her. The laughter grew, and I felt every pair of eyes in that room turn toward the hallway, like they could see me through the walls. My mother was at her table. Her lips pursed, not laughing, but not defending me either. Clara near the bar smirked and whispered to another bridesmaid, their heads bent together. I wanted to shrink, to vanish, but I was rooted, my breath shallow, my face burning with shame. Hannah wasn't just ignoring me. She was making me a punchline, a story to entertain her guests. I stumbled back, my shoulder hitting the coat rack, sending a jacket to the floor. My eyes stung, but I refused to let the tears fall. I thought of Sophie, her small voice saying, Hannah was mean, and wished I could shield her from this, from knowing her family could be this cruel. But then another voice broke through, small and urgent. Aunt Emily. Sophie darted out from the crowd, her face pale, her tulle dress bunched in her fists. Don't go! Please, I need you here. I knelt, my knees scraping the floor, and pulled her into a hug, her warmth the only thing keeping me from falling apart. Sophie. I can't stay, I whispered, my voice breaking. Not after this. But you're the best one, she said, her eyes wet. They're wrong about you. Her words were a knife twisting deeper, because she saw me, but it wasn't enough to fix this. I hugged her tighter, my heart splintering, and stood, my legs barely holding me. I glanced back at the hall one last time. Hannah was laughing again, her arm looped through Ethan's, oblivious to the wreckage she'd caused. But then her eyes met mine just for a second, and I saw a flicker of something, panic, maybe, or guilt. It vanished as she turned away, but it was enough to make my stomach lurch. She knew what she'd done, and she'd done it anyway. I backed toward the exit, my breath ragged, the locket heavy in my hand. The world felt too small, too heavy, and I didn't know how to carry this pain any longer. I stood by my car, the night air sharp against my skin. Sophie's plea echoing in my head. Her small voice begging me to stay, but Hannah's laughter over the mic drowned it out. My hand trembled around the locket, its edges still biting into my palm. I wanted to hurl it into the gravel, to scream until my throat gave out, but I didn't. Something shifted inside me, a quiet resolve, like a match flaring in the dark. I wasn't going to let Hannah's cruelty define me anymore. I slid into the driver's seat, the leather cold under my dress, and drove a mile to a diner I'd passed on the way in. Its neon sign flickered, casting a pink glow over the lot. Inside, the place smelled of coffee and fried onions, and I took a booth in the corner, my purse beside me. The waitress, a woman with tired eyes and a name tag reading Barb, brought me a mug of tea without asking. I nodded my thanks, too raw to speak, and pulled out a notebook I kept for grocery lists. Tonight, it would hold something else. I started writing my pen, scratching fast, pouring out a letter to my mother. Mom, I wrote, I've spent years trying to be the daughter you'd see, but you chose Hannah every time. The hallway seat wasn't a mistake. It was a message. I'm done begging for your love. The words spilled out sharp and honest, naming every slight, the forgotten birthdays, the way she'd praised Hannah's grades, but ignored my art, the heirloom necklace she'd promised me, but gave away. My hand shook, but I kept going, each sentence loosening the knot in my chest. When I finished, I folded the letter, my heart pounding, but lighter. I'd mail it tomorrow, no matter what. My phone buzzed, a text from Clara. You left typical. Her words stung, but I saw them for what they were, Hannah's echo. I called her instead, my voice steady despite the ache. Clara, why did you turn on me? I asked, cutting through her excuses. She stammered, then admitted Hannah had told her I'd badmouthed her to mutual friends years ago. A lie one Clara had believed without asking me. She wanted you out of the picture, Clara said, her voice small. I didn't think it'd go this far. I hung up my jaw tight, but her words lit a fire. Hannah's insecurity had poisoned more than just me. I opened my notebook again, jotting down a name, Aunt Laura, my dad's sister who'd left our family years ago after a fight with Mom. I'd always felt close to her warm hugs and sharp wit, a comfort when I was a kid. I found her number in an old email and dialed, my heart racing. When she answered, her voice was like coming home. Emily, I've missed you, she said, no hesitation. I told her everything, my voice breaking, and she listened, her silence full of care. Come see me, she said. You're not alone. I set the phone down, my eyes stinging but clear. The diner was quiet now, just the hum of a jukebox in the corner. I started a new page in my notebook, not a letter this time, but a journal entry, a promise to myself. I'm enough. I wrote the words shaky but true. I don't need their approval to be whole. Writing it felt like carving a line in the sand, a boundary Hannah couldn't cross. I glanced at my dress still creased from the wedding and made another decision. I'd donate it, let it bring joy to someone else, free myself from the weight of that night. Barb refilled my tea, her smile soft. You look like you're figuring something out, she said. I nodded, a spark growing inside me. I wasn't running anymore. I was choosing me, and it felt like the first real breath I'd taken all day. The diner's jukebox switched to a soft country tune, and I leaned back in the booth, my notebook open, the words, I'm enough, staring up at me. The tea was cold now, but I didn't care. Writing that letter to Mom, calling Clara, reaching out to Aunt Laura. It was like I'd cracked open a door inside myself, letting light into a room I'd kept locked. I wasn't fixed, not even close, but I was moving, and that was enough for now. My phone lit up with a text from Hannah. You left my wedding. So selfish, Emily. Her words were a jab meant to pull me back into her game. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering, then blocked her number without replying. The act was quiet final, like shutting a book I'd read too many times. I didn't need her voice in my head anymore. I set the phone face down, my hands steady, and felt a weight lift, small but real. I thought of Laura's invitation to visit her warmth, pulling me towards something new. I opened my notebook again and wrote down her address, sketching a rough map of the drive to her house in Vermont. It was a few hours away, a place I hadn't been since I was a kid, but I could see it. Her cozy farmhouse, the porch swing, where we'd shared lemonade and stories. I decided I'd go this weekend not to run away but to rebuild. Laura had known Dad better than anyone, and I needed her stories, her truth about him, to counter the lies Hannah had spun. The diner door jingled, and Lucas the waiter from the wedding walked in, his apron gone, a worn jacket slung over his shoulder. He spotted me and hesitated, then slid into the booth across from me. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, his voice easy but careful. I nodded, surprised, but glad for the company. "Didn't expect to see you here. Got off my shift," he said, signaling Barb for a coffee. "Saw you leave the wedding. Figured you might need a friend." His eyes were kind, no judgment, just a quiet understanding that made me relax. We talked first about nothing, his favorite diner food, my bad habit of oversteeping tea, then deeper. I told him about Hannah's speech, the locket, the years of feeling like an outsider. He listened, nodding, then shared his own story. A brother who'd shut him out after a fight over their parents' will. "Took me years to stop chasing his approval," he said. "You're stronger than you think, Emily. Leaving tonight, that was brave." His words settled into me like stones in a river, steady and true. I glanced at my notebook, the pages filling with my thoughts, and realized I wanted to keep going, to write more than letters or journals. I'd always loved words, the way they could hold pain and hope at once. "I'm thinking of joining a writing group," I said almost to myself. "Maybe tell my story, see if it helps anyone." Lucas grinned, his coffee steaming between his hands. "You should. You've got a voice. Use it." I smiled, small but real, and wrote down the name of a local writing workshop I'd seen flyers for. It met Tuesdays at the library, a place I could start fresh. The idea of sharing my words, of being heard, sparked something in me, a flicker of purpose. I wasn't ready to forgive Hannah or Mom, but I was ready to build something for myself, something they couldn't touch. I closed my notebook, my fingers brushing the locket in my purse. I'd keep it not for Hannah, but for me, a reminder of the girl I'd been, the one who'd loved her sister fiercely. I looked out the diner window, the neon sign casting pink light across my face, and felt a quiet strength growing. I wasn't the Emily who'd walked into that wedding hoping for scraps of love. I was someone new, and I was just beginning. I met Lucas's eyes, gave a small nod, and let the silence hold us heavy with possibility. The diner's neon glow faded as I drove home that night, the road dark and quiet, except for the hum of my tires. Blocking Hannah's number, writing that letter to Mom, planning to see Aunt Laura. It felt like I'd drawn a line, but I didn't know what would come next. My apartment was still when I walked in, the faint smell of lavender from a candle I'd left burning. I set my notebook on the kitchen counter, the locket beside it, and sank onto the couch, too wired to sleep. By morning, whispers of my absence at the wedding had spread. Jessica, a mutual friend who'd been at the reception, texted me, "Heard you left early. Ethan's asking Hannah why. She's dodging." I stared at the message, my coffee going cold. Hannah had always been the one to control the story, painting me as the problem. But now cracks were showing. Ethan's doubt, even if small, was new. I didn't reply to Jessica, not yet. I wasn't ready to stir that pot, but knowing Hannah was scrambling felt like a shift, like the ground wasn't hers to command anymore. I mailed the letter to Mom before I could second-guess it, dropping it in a blue mailbox outside the post office. The metal clank of the slot was final, and I stood there, my breath catching. I'd laid out years of hurt in those pages, not to hurt her back, but to be seen. I didn't expect a response. Not really, but the act of sending it changed something in me. I felt taller, like I'd claimed a piece of myself she'd never touched. At work, I kept my head down sorting invoices at the small accounting firm where I'd been for 3 years. But my mind was elsewhere, replaying Sophie's hug, Lucas's words in the diner. During lunch, I checked my phone and saw a voicemail from Mom. My heart skipped, but her voice was cold clipped. "Emily, your letter was unfair. You're making this about you, as always. Call me when you're ready to apologize." I deleted it, my jaw tight. She hadn't heard me, not one word. But instead of crumbling, I felt a strange calm. Her refusal wasn't my failure. It was hers. Later that day, I drove to the library for the writing workshop I'd found. The room was small with folding chairs and a whiteboard, a dozen strangers sipping coffee from paper cups. The facilitator, a woman named Marie with gray curls, asked us to share something personal. No pressure. I hesitated, my notebook heavy in my lap, then read a short piece I'd written about feeling invisible. The words came out raw, my voice shaking but clear. When I finished, the room was quiet. Then a man across from me, maybe 50, nodded. "That hit home," he said. Others murmured agreement, and Marie smiled, saying my honesty was a gift. I left the workshop lighter, my words echoing in my mind. They'd listened, really listened, and it felt like a door opening. When I got home, I found a message from Sophie on my laptop sent through a chat app she wasn't supposed to use. "Aunt Emily Hannah said you're jealous and that's why you left." I told her she's wrong, but she got mad. My heart ached for Sophie caught in the middle, but her defense was a spark. Even a 10-year-old could see through Hannah's lies. I typed back, keeping it light, promising we'd talk soon. But as I closed the laptop, a new detail from Jessica's text sank in. Hannah had lied about a family loan years ago, saying I'd taken it. It was why some cousins like Brian barely spoke to me. The lie was so old, so woven into our family's story, I hadn't even known it existed. I sat there, the room silent, my pulse loud in my ears, the truth of Hannah's betrayal settling like ice. The truth about the loan Hannah pinned on me sat heavy like a stone I'd been carrying without knowing. I leaned back on my couch, the apartment quiet, except for the faint hum of the fridge. I didn't cry or rage. I just sat, letting it sink in. Years of cold shoulders from cousins, aunts, even neighbors. It wasn't just Hannah's charm winning them over. It was her lies, carefully planted, growing into a wall between me and everyone else. And I'd never seen it. I checked my email, half expecting another jab from Hannah, but found something else, a note from the writing workshop's facilitator, Marie. She'd sent a link to a local magazine that published my piece about feeling invisible. "Your voice matters," she wrote. "Keep going." I clicked the link, my heart quickening, and there it was, my words in print, raw and real, under my name. I read it twice, my throat tight. Strangers would see this, maybe feel less alone because of it. It wasn't revenge, but it was power, the kind Hannah couldn't take. My phone buzzed again, this time Jessica. "Ethan and Hannah fought last night," she wrote. "He's pissed about how she treated you. She's acting like it's no big deal, but he's not buying it." I set the phone down, my hands cold. Ethan's doubt was growing a crack in Hannah's perfect facade. I didn't feel triumph, just a dull ache. Part of me wanted Hannah to hurt, to feel what I'd felt, but another part just wanted to be done. I didn't reply, letting the silence speak for me. The next day, I drove to Vermont to see Aunt Laura. Her farmhouse was just as I remembered, white clapboard, a sagging porch fields stretching out under a gray sky. She pulled me into a hug before I could speak, her sweater smelling of wool and coffee. We sat in her kitchen sunlight, slanting through lace curtains, and she handed me a box of Dad's old letters. He wrote these to me when you were little, she said, her eyes soft. He was so proud of you, Emily. Not Hannah. You. I opened one, my fingers careful, and read Dad's slanted handwriting. Emily's got a spark, Laura. She sees the world differently. Tears pricked my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. Laura watched me, her silence warm, and I felt something shift, a piece of me slotting back into place. Hannah had stolen so much, but she couldn't touch this. Back home, I got an email from Hannah, her first since I'd blocked her number. You're causing drama, she wrote. Ethan's upset because of you. Just admit you were jealous and move on. Her words were desperate, not angry, like she was scrambling to hold her story together. I read it once, then archived it, my pulse steady. She was unraveling, but I didn't need to push. The truth was doing that for me. Lucas texted, inviting me to a community potluck at the library, a gathering for people who'd faced family rifts. I went hesitant at first, carrying a tray of brownies I'd baked. The room was full of faces like mine, tired, hopeful, scarred. I shared a bit of my story, my voice low but clear, and a woman named Tara squeezed my hand after. You're not alone, she said. I nodded, my chest loosening. These strangers, this space, they were mine now, not Hannah's. But then I got a call from Ethan, his voice tight. Emily. I didn't know how bad it was, he said. I'm sorry. I listened, waiting for more, but he stopped there, like he was testing the water. I didn't trust it, not yet. Thanks for saying that, I said, and hung up, my heart heavy. His apology was a start, but it didn't erase the laughter, the lies, the years. I stood in my kitchen, the locket on the counter, its silver dull in the lamplight. I'd won something maybe, but it felt like losing too, like I'd traded my family for a truth too sharp to hold. A week after the potluck, I woke to sunlight filtering through my bedroom curtains, the air crisp with early fall. My apartment felt different now, less like a hiding place and more like a home. I'd hung a small painting above my desk, one I'd done years ago, of a quiet river, its colors soft but bold. It was the first time I'd let my art breathe in my space, and it steadied me. I was finding my footing step by slow step in a life I was building for myself. Mornings had a rhythm now. I'd brew coffee, call Sophie on video to hear about her school projects, her voice bright through the screen. She'd show me her latest drawings, stick figures with wild colors, and I'd mail her crayons to keep her going. I'd visit Aunt Laura every other weekend, our talks stretching late over mugs of chamomile tea. And I'd write my words, filling pages for the magazine, each one a thread tying me to others who'd felt unseen. It wasn't loud or grand, but it was mine. Today I needed something else, a moment to anchor this new calm. I packed a bag and drove to a lake Dad used to take me to, a small one tucked in the hills an hour from home. The road wound through pines, their scent sharp through my open window. When I parked, the lake was still, its surface a mirror for the clouds. I walked to the shore, my sneakers sinking into the soft earth, and sat on a flat rock, the kind Dad would have skipped stones from. I hadn't been here since I was a teenager, but it felt like yesterday, his laugh echoing in my memory. I pulled a small jar of flower petals from my bag, ones I'd dried from my balcony garden. They were delicate shades of pink and white, and I held them, thinking of everything I'd carried since the wedding. Not just Hannah's cruelty or Mom's silence, but the years before, the quiet ways I'd let myself shrink. I stood, the wind cool on my face, and scattered the petals over the water. They drifted, catching the light, and I whispered, "This is for me." It wasn't about forgiving anyone else, not yet. It was about letting go of the Emily who'd begged to be enough. I sat back down, my hands empty, and let the lake's quiet fill me. A heron glided across the water, its wings steady, and I thought of Lucas, how he'd become a friend in these weeks. We'd met for coffee yesterday at a shop near the library, the kind with mismatched mugs and wobbly tables. He'd talked about his latest cooking experiment, a failed attempt at sourdough, and I'd laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. "You're different now," he'd said, his eyes crinkling. "Lighter, maybe." I'd nodded, not explaining, but feeling it too. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from Ruth, the neighbor from the wedding. "Saw your piece in the magazine," she wrote. "Your dad always said you had a gift." He was right. I read it twice. My chest warm. Ruth had known me since I was a kid, had watched me grow up in the shadow of Hannah's spotlight. Her words were a bridge to a past I could hold without pain, a reminder that I'd been seen even then. I tucked the phone away and looked out at the lake, the petals gone, now carried by the current. The water was clear, reflecting the sky, and I felt a stillness settle in me, not perfect, but real. I wasn't running from the hurt anymore. I was standing in it, and it didn't own me. I breathed slow, the air tasting of earth and pine, and let the moment hold me steady and sure. The lake's quiet stayed with me as I drove back the road, unfurling under a sky turning gold. I didn't need music or noise. The hum of the engine was enough, a steady pulse matching the calm settling in my bones. I'd scattered those petals not to erase the past, but to mark a line I was choosing what to carry forward. My apartment greeted me with its familiar creaks, the river painting glowing in the late light. I felt like I was seeing it for the first time. I invited a few people over that evening, a small gathering that felt right. Aunt Laura drove down, bringing a loaf of her dense rye bread. Sophie came with her mom, clutching a new sketchbook I'd sent her. Lucas showed up with a bottle of cider, and Marie from the writing workshop brought a stack of poems to share. We crowded around my tiny dining table, the air warm with laughter and the clink of glasses. Sophie showed off a drawing of a dragon, its scales a riot of blue, and I taped it to my fridge, her pride lighting up the room. Laura told a story about Dad teaching her to fish, his patience a lesson in itself, and I listened, soaking in every word. After dinner, we moved to the living room, the couch sagging under us. Marie read a poem about losing her sister to time, not death, and I felt the weight of her words, the way they mirrored my own quiet grief. I didn't share anything, just listened, but it was enough. These people, some new, some tied to my past, were my circle, now chosen not by blood, but by care. We stayed up late, the conversation drifting, and when Sophie fell asleep on my shoulder, I felt a peace I hadn't known I could. The next morning, alone again, I sat at my desk with a fresh journal. I'd been writing for the magazine, but this was different, private. I started a new entry, not about Hannah or Mom, but about me. "I forgive you," I wrote, the words meant for the girl I'd been, the one who'd tried so hard to be loved. "You did your best." I tore the page out, folded it small, and took it to the balcony. The air was cool, the city waking below. I lit a match, careful, and let the paper burn, the ashes drifting over the railing. It wasn't loud or dramatic, just a release, a way to set that girl free. Sophie called later, her voice bubbly through the phone. She'd drawn me as a superhero, cape and all, and was mailing it to me. I laughed, promising to frame it, and we made plans for her to visit soon. Her trust, her belief in me was a gift I didn't take lightly. I'd be the aunt she needed, no matter what Hannah said. The magazine emailed too, saying my column was gaining readers, people who wrote in with their own stories of family and loss. It wasn't fame, but it was purpose, a way to turn my pain into something that held others up. As I tidied the apartment, I found a card from Mom in the mail. Just my name on the envelope, no return address. Inside was a generic birthday note, my birthday months away, her handwriting stiff. "Wishing you well." It said nothing more. I set it on the counter, my heart steady. Once that card would have gutted me, a reminder of her distance. Now it was just paper, a choice she'd made. I didn't need her to see me anymore. I saw myself. I stepped onto the balcony, the evening air soft, and looked out at the city lights. My life wasn't perfect, but it was mine, built from the ground up. I leaned against the railing, my breath slow, and let the quiet wrap around me. The world felt wide, not heavy, and I was ready to keep walking, one step at a time. Months have passed since that night at the diner, and I'm not the same Emily who stood trembling in a wedding hallway. My days have a rhythm now, one I've carved out with care. I wake early, the city still quiet, and sit at my kitchen table with a mug of black tea, steam curling in the morning light. I write for the magazine twice a week, my column, a small corner of the world where I unpack family loss and the messy ways we heal. Readers send letters, their stories raw and familiar, and I read each one feeling less alone with every word. My apartment is fuller now, not with things, but with life. Sophie's superhero drawing hangs above my desk. Its bright lines, a daily reminder of her faith in me. I've started baking again, a habit I'd dropped years ago. On weekends, I knead dough for cinnamon rolls, the scent filling the rooms, and share them with neighbors in my building. There's a widow next door, Ellen, who tells me stories of her youth over coffee, her laughter a gift. These connections, small as they are, root me in a way my family never did. I visit Dad's grave sometimes, a quiet cemetery just outside town. It's not about mourning anymore, but about talking to him the way we used to. I bring a thermos of coffee and sit by his stone, reading him bits of my latest column, or just telling him about my week. Last time, I told him about a reader who wrote in saying my words helped her leave a toxic sister behind. "You'd be proud, Dad," I said, my voice steady, the wind carrying it away. I don't need his answer. I feel it, in the quiet, in the way I'm learning to stand tall. Aunt Laura's become my anchor, her Vermont farmhouse, a second home. We spend evenings sorting through old photos, her stories of Dad painting him clearer than ever. He wasn't perfect, she says, but he loved me fiercely, saw my quiet strength when others didn't. I've started a scrapbook for those memories, pasting in pictures and scraps of his letters, a way to hold him close without the weight of grief. Laura teases me about my terrible glue skills, and we laugh the sound easy like family should be. I see Lucas most weeks, usually at the library's community nights. He's teaching me to play chess, though I'm awful always sacrificing my queen too soon. He laughs, says it's because I'm too kind to let pieces go. Our friendship is simple, no pressure, just two people who've walked through fire and found each other on the other side. Last week, he brought me a potted basil plant for my balcony, saying it'd keep me company. It's thriving out there, its leaves green against the city gray, and I water it daily, a small act of care that mirrors how I'm learning to tend to myself. Work's different too. I'm still at the accounting firm, but I've started speaking up, suggesting ideas in meetings where I used to stay silent. My boss noticed, gave me a small project to lead. It's not a corner office, but it's progress, a sign I'm not hiding anymore. I'm saving up too for a trip somewhere new, maybe the coast where I can walk by the ocean and let its vastness remind me how big life can be. I don't think about Hannah much, not like before. Her shadow's smaller now, less a wound, and more a scar, one I can touch without flinching. Mom hasn't called since that birthday card, and I'm okay with that. I've stopped waiting for her to change. My life's not about them anymore. It's about the people who stay, the ones who see me. I look out my window, the city waking below, and breathe slow, the air clean and sharp. I'm here, and that's enough for now. The days keep turning, each one a small stitch in the fabric of this new life. I've started running in the mornings, not far, just along the park trail near my building. The rhythm of my steps, the cool air in my lungs, it's become a kind of prayer, a way to greet the world on my terms. Last week, I passed a woman on the trail, her face lined with years, and she nodded at me, a stranger's quiet acknowledgement. I nodded back, and it felt like we understood something unspoken, two people carrying their own stories, still moving forward. I've been thinking about forgiveness, not the kind that erases what happened, but the kind that sets you free. I don't hate Hannah anymore. I see her now, not as a villain, but as someone trapped in her own fears, her need to be the only one who shines. I wrote her a short note last month. Not an apology, but a goodbye. I wish you well, I said, but I'm choosing me. I mailed it no return address and felt no anger, just release. She didn't reply, and I didn't need her to. That chapter's closed, its pages worn, but no longer heavy. I've been mentoring a girl from the community nights, a teenager named Lila, who reminds me of myself at 16, quiet but fierce. We meet at a cafe, sketch ideas for her school essays, and talk about her dreams of being a journalist. She's got a fire in her, and I'm learning as much from her as she is from me. Helping her find her voice makes mine stronger, like we're both building something new. I think of Sophie too, how she's growing up fast, her letters full of questions about life. I answer everyone hoping I'm the steady hand for her that Dad was for me. The magazine offered me a regular column now, not just guest pieces. I write about the small moments that save us, a stranger's smile, a letter that says what you couldn't, a morning run that feels like freedom. My words reach people I'll never meet, and their emails flood my inbox, stories of sisters who hurt them, parents who looked away, choices they made to walk their own path. I read them late at night, my lamp casting a soft glow, and feel part of something bigger, a quiet chorus of people choosing to heal. I went to the cemetery again yesterday, not to talk, but to listen. I sat by Dad's grave, the grass damp under my jeans, and watched the clouds shift. I didn't bring coffee or read anything. I just let the silence hold me. I thought about the wedding, how it broke me open, but also how it led me here to this life I'm building. I'm not perfect, not whole, but I'm enough, and that's a truth I carry now, steady as my own heartbeat. The lesson I've learned isn't loud or grand. It's this family isn't just the people you're born to. It's the ones who see you, who stay, who hold space for your truth. And the most important family is the one you build inside yourself. The voice that says you're worth it, even when others don't. I've learned to listen to that voice, to trust it, and it's carried me further than I ever thought I could go. What moment made you realize you could choose yourself? Share it below. I'd love to hear your story. If this journey resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need it. Thank you for listening, for being here. Here's to healing, to finding your light, and to walking your path with courage.